the agreement among all the cultures of the world that murder is wrong and adultery is wrong and lying and stealing is wrong is one solid piece of evidence that indeed there's a God in heaven who gave us all a conscience. And the consciences.
Alternatively, these are evolutionarily advantageous. Not killing someone in your gene pool and not killing your son. And that's why we all accept them as moral truths.
Tell that to the Jews during the Holocaust. Tell that to the people who experienced the force of the American military power. Try to convince people who are oppressed. Well, don't worry. In this life, evolution will win, and we'll all get better. I think evolutionary optimism is pretty empty and hollow if you look hard and think about it. If evolutionary optimism is based on the fact that you just allow evolution to keep going, and we're going to have nirvana, we're going to have utopia, sir, baloney. If we've had billions and billions of years to evolve to perfection, we're a long way from perfection, sir.
I'm not sure that we need to evolve to perfection. But I mean, evolutionarily, the Nazis are defunct, the American Empire is failing. And so really, you know, that's evolutionary karma, no?
Uh-huh. Well, there are a truckload of people, sir, going to bed starving tonight. Like 1/3 of the human population.
It's unfortunate. We don't really address that.
Yeah, well, there's a real problem with evil, sir. And if you're going to bank on evolutionary optimism to solve the world's problems, that's, I find, incredibly hollow.
But I think that we should have an active role in it. But I also feel that, like, these basic human moral values don't necessarily have to come from a god, as they've come from many other gods. And so, like, without it, we still have these.
Life is meaningless. And in the midst of the meaninglessness, to try and argue that evolutionary optimism is going to ring true sounds to me like an amazingly elitist worldview from a very, very comfortable American university campus.
I think you're making a dichotomy between living for God and living for nothing. And I think there's a lot of other things in between. Living for human experience, for example. Living to experience the world.
Live for human experience. Nazi experience, white South African experience, American experience at the time of the Dred Scott decision.
All experiences that ultimately create us as people and create our society today.
Uh-huh.
And so ultimately we take the good and the bad and we make something of it. As humans, as society.
If morality is relative, there is no good and bad. Stuff just happens.
I'm not saying that morality is relative. In fact, earlier we said that many of these base moral claims were universal among all of societies, all of religions, all of people.
If there is no God, there is no objective morality. If there is no God, morality is the creation of the human mind. And it depends which human mind you're talking to. Be it a Nazi mind, be it a KKK mind, be it Albert Einstein, be it Mother Teresa, be it Adolf Hitler. It's all relative. So there's no real good and real evil. They're just prejudices that we have.
Why this God instead of the God of the Romans or the God of the Greeks, who also gave moral stand?
The reason it should be Jesus Christ, I am convinced, is because as you look through history, you will never find a person who lived the quality of life he did. You will never find a person who taught more truth ethically than he did. As Robert Coles, a psychology professor at Harvard, puts it, all the teachings on ethics over the past 2,000 years are simply footnotes to the Sermon on the Mount. Incredibly profound ethics in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, the Sermon on the Mount from Jesus.
We also receive ethics from Aesop and his fables.
Yeah, and a lot of those are right out of the Bible. Thirdly, watch the way he dies on a cross, loving and forgiving his enemies. That demands respect.
People from other faiths also believe that they have this belief because of some personal experience. How do you know what personal experience is correct?
Great question. A lot of people say to me, Cliff, what really bugs me about your Christianity is that you think you're the only one who's had an experience with God. I know a lot of Hindus, a lot of Muslims, a lot of Sikhs who claim that they have their own relationship with God. Not only that, they've built marvelous civilizations. So where on earth do you get off saying that a person needs to put their faith in Jesus Christ? Can't you acknowledge the benefits of all the major world religions? Great point. Yes, I can acknowledge that there is much good in Islam, in Hinduism, in Buddhism. All truth is God's truth. So I, as a follower of Christ, am not opposed to the kindness of a Mahatma Gandhi. No, Mahatma Gandhi's lifestyle resonates deep within me as, wow, I respect that. That's really good. When I study Siddhartha Gautama Buddha and begin to realize how he struggled through the problem of suffering, I respect the man highly. Why? Because he really struggled with a basic human fundamental question. Why is there so much suffering? That's good, Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. I'm glad you struggle with that. In fact, last year when I was out here, a guy stepped out of the crowd and said, well, I disagree with you when you say the purpose of life is to love God and to love others. I said, fine, that's cool. You disagree with me. You please tell me what the purpose of your life is. And this University of Arizona student said to me, the purpose of my life is good beer, good sex, and listen to George Carlin. And my simple response to him was, let me ask you something. In light of the fact that 1/3 of human beings on the face of the planet are starving to death as they go to bed tonight, where on earth do you get off telling me that the purpose of human existence is good beer, good sex, and enjoy George Carlin? You see, in Siddhartha Gautama Buddha was a lot more of a deep thinker than that University of Arizona student. Siddhartha Gautama Buddha saw suffering and said, you know something? Something's not right on this planet. Now I got to figure out, why do people suffer and what's the solution for that suffering? So I respect Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. But Buddha never talked about God. Buddha never talked about heaven. Jesus Christ did. And my question as a thinking human being is there a God? And if there is, how can I know God? And is there life after death? And if there is, what's the way to heaven? Jesus Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, who gives a rip? The majority of people who have messianic dreams, we lock up in mental hospitals. But when you read about how Christ treated people, when you read the content of his ethical teaching, when you read how he died, loving and forgiving his enemies, and when you read about how he rose from the dead, you begin to realize he's not a candidate for a mental hospital. He's a candidate for you to worship. Because the evidence is he's totally credible and trustworthy. Now, what do I say to someone who says, well, Cliff, I've had this experience with God, and I don't accept Christ? My point is, I don't know the experience that you've had, obviously. I'm glad you've had your experience, but you got to be careful. You've got to have some objective basis for determining whether your experience is real, whether your experience is based on a fantasy or on truth. You have to have some basis to determine whether your experience is not a counterfeit spiritual experience that comes from Satan. And that's why you've got to have objective truth in addition to your personal experience. So you better look for objective truth in addition to your subjective experience. And that is why I'm a follower of Christ, because the objective evidence is that Jesus Christ is reliable. Now, you talk to different Christians and they have different experiences. Well, there's not one way to experience Christ. We obviously are all unique. We're different. And when you read the Gospels, you read about Jesus walking along one day, and the crowds were pressing in on him. And suddenly Jesus stopped and said, someone touched me. And the disciples said, of course someone touched you, Jesus. Can't you see the crowds are pressing in on you? And Jesus said, no, I felt power leave my body. Somebody touched me. A woman stepped out of the crowd and said, Jesus, I've had this internal bleeding for 12 years. I've gone from doctor to doctor to doctor. They've all failed. But I believe that if I reached out and touched the edge of your garment, I would be healed. Well, ma'am, for me, that is really weird. Touching a garment? And yet Jesus saw in that woman that her reaching out and touching his garment was an expression of her genuine faith. Well, if you tell me that the way you express your faith is by reaching out and grabbing hold of a garment, I'm going to be highly suspicious of you. But that's my problem. Obviously, Jesus saw that that woman had genuine faith, and she expressed it in the way she reached out and touched the edge of his garment.
In your mind, it would not make sense for both of these religions to claim, to make the same claims for being correct and being right and being valid.
Oh, no, my Muslim friends make a very clear claim that Islam is the truth. And I respect that. They believe that genuinely. Now, I disagree with them, but that doesn't mean we're going to start killing each other. As a follower of Christ, I have no choice but to love and respect all human beings and to respect and to talk civilly to all people. Christ commands that. I mean, the one who bled and died on a cross praying, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. That's the essence of tolerance. Tolerance is not me looking in the face of an atheist and saying, oh, you and I agree. We're saying the same thing. It's not tolerance. That's being brain dead. The atheist and I disagree. Now, the question is, what's the evidence that what you believe is true? What's the evidence that what I believe is true? And then we have a civil discussion.
Okay, then I'll simplify my latter part of the question because I think you hit on it a little bit already. What I was basically getting at was if people of different religious backgrounds think that their own belief systems are pretty valid, consistent with one another, they believe it, that's what they practice. Obviously, that means that for every person of faith who isn't a Christian, decreases the proportion of Christians out there. You're a Christian, so I want to say that maybe there's some stake in, it's nice to know that there are more Christians out there, or maybe that I'm seeing more of us out there. So my question is this, if you run into people that genuinely think that their sense of their faith and their background is fine and works for them, and they're not Christian, does that trouble you at all, or not?
That it's a branch of Christianity.
Your comments earlier indicated we can just kind of politely disagree, but I just wanted to ask you.
Sure. I deal, because I'm a pastor of a church, I deal with people who have some severe psychological problems. If a person has a severe psychological problem and is convinced that they don't need medical attention, I'm not just going to look them in the face and say, that's cool. No. I'm going to look them in the face and try and persuade them to go and get psychiatric help. Now, I got my work cut out for me at times. Because at times, there are a lot of people who don't want psychiatric help. I'm convinced if you have a psychological disease, it would be very healthy for you to go and get some psychiatric help. Similarly, I'm convinced that we're all going to die. I think that's reality. The question is there life after death or is there not? Historically, the dead Christ rose from the dead. This, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. I am pedal to the metal in my life, trying to introduce as many people as possible to Christ. Does that mean that I got to force feed Jesus down people's throats? No. Christ calls me to love and respect people, to engage them in civil conversation. If they want to blow me off, fine. I mean, I'm going to challenge them to think, but I can't take that personally. I mean, the guy who stood here just a little while ago, he asked me a question about, how is God going to judge those who've never heard about Christ? I say, I don't know, and I'm about to make my first point, and he cuts me off. Then I listen to him, and then, I say, okay, now let me answer, and he says, okay, and I start answering. He starts laughing at me. I mean, I can't do anything about that. That's his decision. Now, I'm going to respect him. I'm going to try and answer his question to the best of my ability. But what he does with God is his business. And when you read the Gospels, you'll notice Christ never manipulated. He never coerced. He never forced anybody. He tried to love people. He engaged people in respectful dialogue. Now, he called a spade a spade. He got in the faces of some people and said, you know something? You're doing evil, and you're going to be judged for it, and you're going to go to hell. But he was motivated by love. He wanted people to go to heaven. He wanted people to be reconciled to God and reconciled to each other.
It's obvious that Jesus was a real person. He lived, he died, as was, other very famous religious figures like Gandhi, like Buddha, like all these other things. And with your example of, the patient that's denying psychiatric help or whatever kind of help,
right.
The same can be applied for a Christian, that you're the patient that needs the help. It can be applied to any religion. So
yes.
Why is the absolute truth Christianity. That's what I'm having troubles with. Why, of the absolute truth, if there is an absolute truth,
Right.
why is it Christianity as opposed to any of the other things?
Because Jesus Christ is reliable.
Well, so is, Gandhi in a sense.
Sir, Gandhi was very open about his own sin of racism when he lived in South Africa. Gandhi was well aware of the fact that he had blown it ethically. Jesus Christ never blew it. He lived a sinless life.
What about Muhammad?
Well, I think if you read the Quran, you will find out why it would probably not be the wisest decision to trust Muhammad. I could be mistaken, but why don't you just read the Quran for yourself and then read the Gospels and ask yourself, does the evidence point to Jesus Christ being reliable, or does the evidence point to Muhammad being reliable?
All right, so you're saying that you're disproving the Torah, or whatever?
The Quran?
The Quran.
Right.
Sorry.
It's okay, go ahead. Yeah, I understand. I'm with you.
You're disproving the Quran, therefore you don't believe in that certain religion.
No, I don't disprove the Quran. Sir, the evidence is the Quran is very historically accurate.
Okay, you don't agree with it, is what you're...
Well, yeah, you read about how Muhammad lived his life, what he taught, how he died, what happened after his death. Just read it. And then ask yourself, is this the type of individual I can trust?
Well, despite the content, there are lots of people out there that actually do the same thing with the Bible. So how is that any different?
Good.
You believe in the Bible, they believe in the Quran.
No, you don't believe in the Bible. You believe in Jesus Christ. Now, you find out about Christ through the historical record of the Gospels, but when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you examine, how did Jesus live his life? How did he treat people?
Well, you can't not believe in the Bible and believe in Jesus Christ at the same time.
Sir, there are going to be a lot of people in heaven who do not believe the Bible is the inerrant word of God, but they put their faith in Christ. The issue is not accepting the Bible as the word of God. It's not the issue. The issue is, who is Jesus? Now, obviously, if you're convinced the Gospels are not historically reliable, you're going to have a problem ascertaining, is Jesus reliable or not? So is that your issue? Are the Gospels historically reliable, or am I missing it?
Well, I have my own issues with the Bible. I'm just having an issue with Christianity being the absolute truth and there being no other acceptance out there.
Well, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, the reason you shouldn't be bummed out by that is you get answers that are incorrect on your exams here at this fine university. Is that arrogance on the part of your professor to say that one of your answers is incorrect? No. It's a truth claim your professor's making. You answered false. Here's the correct answer. So I don't think Muhammad is arrogant because Muhammad says this is true. I don't think the avatars of Hinduism are arrogant because they say they're true. I don't think Jesus Christ is arrogant because he says he's true. Because guess what? Every single one of us here makes truth claims, and there's an amazing exclusivity to truth. It means the opposite is false. Do you think it's wrong for me to murder him?
Sure.
You're an arrogant twit. No. You're making a truth claim. Cliff, the man has a value, and if you murder him, that is wrong. It's a truth claim. It doesn't mean you're arrogant. It means you believe it's true that human beings have innate value. For me to murder him is wrong. It's not arrogance on your part, but it is exclusive. Because you're saying to murder him is really wrong. Don't do it. That's pretty exclusive. Well, guess what? If I tell you 2 + 2 = 4, is that an exclusive truth claim? You bet it is. I'm telling you, sir, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 3, and it doesn't equal 5. It equals 4. Every truth claim smacks of exclusivity.
You're in addition modulo 3.
It's still truth. I know there are different forms of truth. Mathematical truth, scientific truth, historical truth, philosophical truth, relational truth. That's obvious. Still, when you make a truth claim, it smacks of exclusivity. So you're right. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Smacks of exclusivity.